welcome guys back to Main Gate Darbar. Today we have Shalini Ghosh and she's of her own choice chosen Diana as the host. It was not forced upon her. She's asked for this ragging. So with that, looking forward to the session. So her journey is quite exciting, what she's done over the years. And Diana is going to help us understand more about it. We will not have a contest of counting the UNOs today. That prize was given away. So today the focus is on Shalini, and I'm going to hand it over the spotlight to Diana.
Okay. Okay. Now, Shalini Ghosh was my first roommate. So, in effect, where was the room? Okay. Wait, you're asking.
Don't look at the poll. Just talk.
So she was my first roommate. Okay. And obviously, initially, we were not seeing much of each other, even though we were roommates, because we were getting ragged and we were in high demand, like in ragging. So I was trying to gauge this person who I would be living with. So, I used to say, she's a graduate. Yeah, bong, cultured. Oh, so I'm observing all the things that are in the room and looking around, trying to kind of gauge, what this person is going to be about. I mean, I've met her, but, obviously you kind of want to figure them out quickly. So I was like, oh, she has sprouts, nutritious food. So she's all cultured, coming from healthy food, eating habits, all of that. Then what happened was that one night, I got ragged quite late and I came back to the hostel room and I realized that I had lost my keys. So I said, whatever, I entered through the window and I went to sleep. And I was, sleeping. And then into the light, like literally early morning, I see another person creeping into the window. And that is Shalini Ghosh coming in. I totally freaked out. And so basically we both had lost our keys and we lived like that. That was us. We never used the main door to enter our room. We used to enter and exit through the window. That was our, moda operandi. So essentially that's pretty much, how we got stuff around. And she was obviously this supposed to be matured, graduate that came, after having seen the world, which I don't know, we'll find out. And we're still finding out if she's mature and, the wise one. So Shalini, why don't you take us through the journey? Tell us, all your bong background and all the exciting, growing up stories. And then we can start with that and, navigate through. I can throw all the nasty questions, while we get on with it.
Okay. So since Dee sort of brought out the bong story in me, I should bring about the Parsi. So here was one bong thinking she's not at all a typical bong, and there was one Parsi thinking she's not a typical bong, and we made quite a pair, I must say, for those few weeks or so that we were in the same room. We didn't leave each other because we didn't like each other. We had to leave because of other reasons. So let me get that out of the way. But yes, I mean, I was a bong, brought up in Cal, spent most of my life in Cal till I left for NID. Came from a very, very big family, with extremes. There was one section which was very, very colonial and the other section which was very, very traditional. So it was kind of an interesting mix, so to say, that I grew up with. I had my mother's mother living with us because mother had lost her father when she was very young and was brought up by her grandparents. So I had a set of great-grandparents, my grandmother, my father's parents, and there was this Scottish lady who used to live in our house. She was a tenant. So all these people were very, very strong influences in my life. And strangely enough, not just the family part of it, but also this Scottish lady was somebody who would really, drive down this whole thing of how important being a bong, our culture, all of that was. So as much as I resisted it all through my growing up years, by the end of it, I am like quite the bomb, which you might agree with, Dee. Given that our batch had some 30% bongs.
Yeah, I learned all my Robindra Sangeet Bangla from you. So I mean, it's all very politically incorrect stuff. But hey, so yeah.
That's an absolute myth. I taught you all the good songs. You went to Narayan, learned all the bad ones, and then told the world I taught you that.
Well, no. So why don't you take us through? Show some your background images, etc. We'd be happy to see all the cute photos of you with.
So, can you see it? The picture?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So that's my mother and father. That's me. That's one of the earliest pictures that I could find. I really couldn't find an album sitting here. The one here is of again, a very rare family photograph. My parents were both photographers and they were busy shooting other things. I never managed to get a, family photograph taken. This is my brother. He was the sweeter of the two. Over the years, that's changed. I've become sweeter. He's not as sweet. I think he's online, so I hope he's hearing me on this. Okay. My paternal grandparents, my grandmother, my great grandparents. This is the lady Margomashi who used to live with us. That's the house that I grew up in. I'm afraid I didn't have a better picture. So, but that house has been a very strong sort of point in my life, because that house had lots of people coming in and going, and it really, I still call it home. When I say home, I mean that house. The two grandfathers that I had, I will be referring to my great grandfather as my grandfather. One was a maker. I put my little kitten, 5-month-old kitten, next to that chest of drawers to show you that that was a level of skill he had. He was a maker. So he made this little chest of drawers and he used to keep his nails and stuff in it, which I whacked from him. The other one, which is my the thinker, he used to write these letters to us. The thing about him was that he never ever treated children as children. We were always treated as adults. And all his letters were also, now that I look at it, even if I was 6 or 7 or whatever it is, his letters were also very, very mature. And of course, they would always have these little, drawings and things. So he definitely had a pretty strong influence on me. This is the other house that I grew up in. This is in Shantiniketan. Shantiniketan was a place where
Where's the other house? Tell me.
This is the house.
Hang on.
Is it not visible?
No, at least on my screen it isn't. Is it visible, Mozzie, for you?
Very visible.
Okay, shit. Okay, now it is. Yeah.
You have to stop drinking in the morning then.
I know. Bad habits. Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
So this is a house in Shantiniketan. My grandfather, after retiring, moved here. He had by now started writing books and all. He had a very interesting life. So he had started writing books. So as a result, this house would have that balcony, which you see, this one, is where people, different kinds of people would come. There'd be writers, there'd be photographers, there'd be painters, and we would all sit in chairs or along that balcony, and there'd be these conversations which would go deep into the night. And we were all allowed to sit there and be a part of those conversations. A large part of this group were actually people who were taught by Rabindranath Tagore. So, that was the kind of influence that was sort of there in my childhood. This is to show what the family was like. Large family, the extended family, neighbors who are also considered families, friends. And believe me, this picture, there are 3-4 more pictures of this with me, the cake, and this child constant, and everybody at the back changing. Basically, we couldn't hold the whole family in one photograph. So there were several of the same one that was taken. That's how big the family was. These are some pictures of me growing up. I always liked the outdoors. This ugly duckling picture of mine is in front of a well which was there in my grandparents' house. I put some of these pictures of me as the young artist. My parents were advised by someone, some artist, I'm assuming, never to put me in a drawing school. So I never went to a drawing school, whatever I did on my own. And as I started growing older, I started copying the great masters. The funny thing is that I tried the same thing with my daughter when she was, ready to sort of start drawing and things. A lot of other kids in our class would go to drawing classes. Now, my daughter was such a bossy little thing. She went and told those kids that, oh, you shouldn't go to a painting class because then all you learn to do is Mickey Mouse and Spider-Man. And that's it. You'll not learn anything. So I actually had a few parents calling me up and saying that, I mean, what is this kind of rubbish advice you're giving to your daughter and then to our children? But then that was how I was sort of brought up and I believed in it. School, I was not that fond of school. I think what I've really carried back from school are my friendships. Incidentally, this girl here is Nandini Sood, Malvika Amit, she was in your batch. And she and I have been together since the earliest that we can remember.
Yeah, note it's a all girls school, and note it's a convent school. Achha, and
It's
also,
but it's an all girls school, yes. It was worse. It was a Marwari school, so worse than convents.
no, but there's a Nandini and you fighting over NID application story as well, no?
No, it wasn't actually a fight. So what happened was that I from a very young age knew that I was going to go to NID because I wasn't good in studies. And my dad had visited NID and he said, perhaps, that's what you should look at because you do seem to have some kind of acumen in the creative side. And, the thing is that when something is given to you in a platter, you sort of take it for granted. So I probably was late in applying or whatever. I didn't get the form, nor did Nandini. So Nandini and I, we were in the same class. We were very good friends, but we didn't hang out with the same bunch of people. So she had a separate bunch of friends. I had a separate bunch of friends. We used to go watch films and do all that intellectual stuff together. So she then came one day in economics class. I remember it was a gallery class and I was sitting right at the, the top layer and the two of us were sitting there and she said, guess what? Shakun had also applied and she got the form. I didn't get it. I believe you also did. And sweet as she was, she said, since we both wanted to go in, let's toss. And we actually tossed a coin. And then as luck would have it, Nandini is the one who sort of,
won the toss.
Won the toss. And,
which one is you and which is Nandini? Nandini is the one next to the teacher, right?
This is Nandini, yes. That is Nandini.
And show you.
Oh, well, Nandini is first bencher. I'm last bencher over there. Third bencher.
They love the hairstyle.
Yeah.
That hairstyle just didn't leave me, man. Even in NID, I had it like that. When Dee went and cut my hair.
Well, I had to style you properly, Shalini.
Yeah. So what happened was then after that, I didn't do very well in my 12th. And my mother said, enough is enough. Now you better get your graduation done. And this is like 3 generations of teachers. So the women in my family were very, very strong women. And my mother was a professor in history. So was my grandmother. So they were like, okay, enough. Now you do your graduation. So every year, poor Nandini would come back and she would say, hey, I think it's time you apply. You love the place. And I would say, no. Let me just get over with this graduation business. And then I remember that end of my second year, she just brought the form. She said, I'm not waiting for you. I brought the form. You fill it up and you have to apply. So then, of course, that, that whole thing changed. So this is one photograph of my college days. Here again, what I really took away were friendships and a lot of traveling. This is where my travel bug bit me really hard. Before that, it used to be with parents, but this is when I actually started traveling with peers and friends. NID happened after that. It was quite the journey. There's a little story here. I don't know if I should go on about it. It's about how the geography honors student sat at the interview and kept arguing with the panel, which included Dhimant and Suranjana and Balram and Pulin Garg, of course, saying that the position of my map, the position of Madras on my map was absolutely correct. Whereas they kept saying, so by the end of it, I kept thinking that this was a trick question and they were trying to corner me. So by the end of it, Suranjana and Bini were literally rolling on the floor and Balram was looking increasingly uncomfortable. And Pulin Garg is the one who said, okay, relax, it's nothing. Hasn't anybody ever told you that you are dyslexic? But, well, so that was the reason why I wasn't so great in school, I guess. And so then that was NID. Unfortunately, the pictures I managed to get from my friends are where I'm either partying or I'm posing. But this picture is interesting because what I really liked about NID was the fact that even though I was a graduate, I was almost 3 years older, maybe more for a lot of my batchmates. There was this very fluid interaction that used to happen between batches. So I had friends who are still my friends who are way senior in terms of years, but not, in terms of academic years, maybe not in terms of age. And there was my wonderful batch, which was, as I said, other than Kuntol, everybody else was much younger than me. But we had this amazing friendship and bond that sort of grew over the years. This was also the time when, and of course, everybody would sort of come to me with their problems and all. So if you ever want gossips or like some deep secrets, then you know the go-to person, because I was like the mama. The mama figure. And so we were the experimental batch. We did that ridiculous 1.5 years, and there was a lot of strange things that happened with our batch. Incidentally, Mahendra Bhai, he was my mentor, and he told me that you should go in for product design, but I was quite keen to do communication design. And NID, its film club, its video club, those international films, all of it, a lot to do with the seniors. I remember Sharna had a huge influence on the way I sort of looked at filmmaking and subjects that were chosen. And I was quite sure that I wanted to go in for video. And the video department was, we didn't.
Yeah, tell us about the video department.
Yeah, so the video department didn't have a head then. Mr. Mathur had just retired, and there was nobody who was sort of. So there were people like Sharma ji and Akhil and SB Saxena who were there, and there were a bunch of very, very helpful people who used to help us with our editing and things in the studio. But there was no mentor, there was no proper guide or teacher. What is happening? So what happened was that as a result, there's a funny thing. So the video department had 5 girls and 1 boy.
And good morning, boys.
Yes. So I mean, to sort of tell you what we were dealing with, there was Sharma ji who would come every morning. So that one boy was Kaushik Sarkar, and he would just look at him and say, "Good morning, boys," with all five of us protesting. And there was Sheetal, there was Deepa, there was Parul, there was Tanuja, and there was me. We were fighters. We would have our claws out every day. Every day we would have some strategy to tell him that, listen, you better say boys and girls, or you say girls, because there's just one boy. And there would be Kaushik sitting there and smiling, into his beard if he had one there. I don't remember if he did. But whatever. But the flip side of it was that we had some amazing external teachers coming in. So we had Navroz Contractor, who taught us cinematography. We had Dinaz Kalvachwala, who exposed us to the most fantastic documentary films that were being made, which was at that time, that's when I was sort of forming this, because earlier, say Nandini, for instance, Malvika, these were my friends, and they had all gone into production houses. They were looking at ad films, and I'd gone to Bombay and I'd, been sort of watching that, because that's what I thought I'd be doing. I'd be sort of joining a production house because that's what people were doing. But I would say that Dinaz's course and Navroz's courses with Mira Lakhia. We even had this amazing Hungarian filmmaker called Istefan Gal who had come down. All of it made things, and the fact that we didn't have a structure in the video department, I would say, I'm sure those of you who were in that group would agree that we became pretty strong-minded people. Like, for instance, I can speak for myself. I was very clear that I did not want to use the tripod. I would have fights with SB Saxena, who was a gold medalist, telling me that you need the tripod, and I would say no, I need shots where I don't need the tripod. And we would just go out, try out things. We also had that wonderful opportunity of choosing guides outside the department, because there wasn't I don't know when Akhil really took over, but for instance, I went and asked Suranjana if she would be my guide, and she happily accepted. And somebody like Suranjana would give you hell. I mean, man, I still keep a post-it in which she had sort of just in 3 lines written off that this film was rubbish and forget about even making it unless you get your act together. And when the jury came,
he's watching on Facebook Live. You want to say a hello message?
Yes, absolutely. Please say hello. I wonder if she remembers the kite film and the yellow post-it. But the thing about Suranjana was that at jury, she would be there giving hell to the other jury members, because she had seen you through it and she was as convinced about the project as you were by the end of it. And that was also a tremendous thing for a student. My 4th film, which actually helped me sort of, travel places and where I completely broke away from all norms. I remember Akhil was my guide, and I went up to him and I told him that, this is the film I'm making. And he said, it doesn't make sense. And, there's no structure, who's your target audience, and etc., etc. So I just lied about the whole thing. I told him, oh, this is it. I'm taking one of Walt Whitman's poems and I'm just sort of giving it I'm going to picturize it. So he said, fine. And then the good thing about Akhil was that he would sort of let you be. So once the film was done, and then I showed it to him, and he said, well, it's a fantastic film, but it doesn't say what you had said it would. Whatever it is, he sort of let me go. In between these, between Suranjana and Akhil, we had other projects also, and I had decided that I wanted to do documentary filmmaking. I didn't want to go to a production house. My Bombay experience made me decide that I would try documentary filmmaking for my internship. So I tried to get in touch with the Bedi brothers, who did not get back. So I got in touch with Mike Pandey, and that is Mike Pandey. And Mike Pandey had just won the Wild Screen Award, the same award that Anirban has won. He was, I think, the first Indian to win it, if I'm right, on these wild elephants which were being relocated to Sarguja. So I read about him, watched the film, and I wrote to him, and he said, listen, I mean, this is a lot of hard work and young girls can't really take part in it. So I insisted. They said, okay, fine, come. So I went, and the man wasn't there. The man who was there was this man, and this man later became my husband. And
where's the man? Show the man. Which one is it?
This one. This is the man I married. That is my brother making a face at him, and that is me yawning while he's finishing my edit. Picture of what was going on. But anyway. That's a really funny poll. So while Mike was not around, I was made to clean the studio. I was whitewashing. I was doing all that. A week or so later, I was given. So if you guys, video guys, remember, we were given the high band, the low band machine. For our really good projects, we were given once used VHS tapes. It was that bad. And when I went to Mike's studio, he gave me a beta machine. He gave me a beta camera and he said, go out and shoot. Once I proved my worth by whitewashing, cleaning, and doing all that dusting, jhadu pocha, he said, okay, I've been watching you. Don't think that, I have not been watching you.
That's your pocha photo? That's your pocha photo?
That's my pocha photo. As you can see, I'm speckled with white, with paint. So then he actually let me make a film for, we used to have a channel called DD3 then. And he said that go and make a film. It's a film called The Remains of the Ridge. And that was my first, I was going to be broadcast, and it was huge. And obviously there was a massive bond that was built with Mike and the whole team. And I came back to NID, I finished my work, and I said that I'm going to do my DIP with you also. And the DIP project was in Madhya Pradesh. And Dee, if I'm not mistaken, you were with Baba Amte around the same time.
Yeah.
So we were just a few villages away from each other, but I knew that we were around. So this was called Baba Amte Sahयोग or some Pragati, Samaj Pragati Sahयोग it was called. So I was working there and making my films, doing my DIP film and all that. And I also got a job with Mike to come back and continue making my film. This is also a time when a lot of my friends started visiting, the studio. And Malvika was one such person who also, fell into that whole Mike charm net. And she also worked in the studio. Nandini used to also drop by. So it was also a very nice ecosystem that was there. But what happened was that by then the video department had got Arun Gupta, and he had started handpicking the good films, and he started sending them to festivals. And my film was the first film that got selected. It was called Icing.
This is the Akhil film that you gave him some cock and bull and got him to let you make it.
Yes, but I told him that I'm sort of I'm picturizing Walt Whitman's poem. And then whatever, I mean, the jury was happy with the film. Chandita Mukherjee had come down and she sort of raved about it. So I was given a clean chit. But I had lied to him. I mean, he used to laugh about it later. The good thing that happened was, so the film was selected, and Krishna helped me get an invitation from the Japan Foundation. So Japan Foundation was inviting all these bigwigs. There was Rashmi Doraiswamy, there was Shantanu Bordoloi, there was Nikhat Kazmi. These are all, that's Meera Lat. She's now, I think, one of the biggest, some secretary in some information and broadcast or some, I mean, she's a IAS officer. So these were the people who were going, and along with them was little Shalini Ghosh, whose ticket and stay and everything was paid for. So much so that my parents gave me travelers' checks, which I didn't even have to encash, because we were also given money to eat on the days when they were not feeding us. So that was the kind of luxury I was suddenly exposed to. What also happened was, when you get into the film festival circuit, then lots of other people start, inviting you. So I got invited to the Short Film Festival in Berlin. I got invited to this Sound Film Festival, to women's festivals, to experimental film festivals. And obviously I couldn't go to all of them because if the festival didn't have the budget to sort of host me or give my travel expenses, then I would have to sort of let go of it. But Dee, what actually happened was that in my life, there were these changing points, right? So first I do my graduation, and then I go into NID.
And the body. This is I Sing the Body Electric. Yeah, that's the film you're
I Sing the Body Electric. Yes, okay. Yes. And I Sing the Body Electric changed things for me, because when I went to Germany, I went for one of the festivals. I got in touch from where that Sound Film Festival people got in touch with me. I started interacting with a whole bunch of people who were working on experimental films for the new media. And there was this really, really interesting new thing coming up, very exciting new thing coming up called online interactive communication, where you are actually putting your film on a website and you're getting feedback from it. I mean, things which are very, the kind of things that we are doing today so easily. Back in 1999, 2000, at that cusp, it was a revolutionary thing. It was like really something new. So I realized that I could not stick to this traditional filmmaking with Mike and conventional sort of approach to it. And I bid goodbye to them. And I first went and joined this place called Media Workshop, which unfortunately had to shut down, and then moved to Magic Software, both of which were really experimenting with this whole new media thing. And, lot of excitement, filmmaking, web, learning about new things. I had excellent bosses. I had some great, peers and colleagues. So Channi was there. So I also had like somebody from the institute to handhold me through this very new kind of medium. And so that's where I sort of moved into. So from conventional filmmaking, I started experimenting. And then Krishna and I had got married by then, and Krishna had started his own company, and soon it looked like he could do with some help. So then I sort of again it was a nice parting with Magic Software, and I moved on. They said that do come back and make our films for us, which I continued doing, and they became like a client for us also, and we started on our own, and we started working with a lot of INGOs, like the international non-government organizations and the World Bank and all of that. And that job was cushy. It was, it was a secure sort of a thing. There was work coming in. There was, it was all good. But what was happening was that I was sort of, one, getting tied up to the desk, which wasn't exciting me. That whole thing of wanting to travel. Like I remember when I was in NID, every weekend I used to get onto a bus on Friday and be back by Monday morning, whenever I could. If there was no submission or something, I was traveling. So that was sort of stopping. I wasn't being able to do that anymore. So I started taking on these photography assignments that I used to take on as a student or a fresh graduate.
There is a connection, no, with the project that you did with Suranjana and photography. Remember?
Yes. So we did an elective with Suranjana, where she made us go out into that Sabarmati riverbed, dry riverbed. I don't know how many of us here did that course. We had to go on to the dry riverbed, and we had to stand from 6 in the morning for good light till 5 in the evening for good light, and just die in that in-between phase to capture fabric in motion, textile in motion, because we were video students. So we had to do this. This was our thing. The point is, when fabric is wet, it's limp. The moment it's dry and it actually starts flowing and all, the dhobis come and take it off. So it was like not just a challenge in terms of getting the right photograph. It was a challenge in terms of dealing with, that's how intelligently courses were designed, So it was also an interaction with the dhobis and trying to sort of figure out how to convince them that, and they are also running, they are also trying to sort of get things dry. So anyway, there was an exhibition, and one of the, this lady called Swati Mitra, she was visiting NID. I think she was a part of the board or something. And she saw that exhibition, and she was very thrilled to see those photographs. So she had, I think, told Suranjana that, if there are any kids who are going back to Delhi, then let them get in touch with me. So when I went and got in touch with her and I showed her my portfolio, she said, yeah, there are all these guidebooks. There are, photographs for Delhi that you can take. You can go to Hampi, you can go to Varanasi. In fact, I went to Varanasi and, spent 4 days there roaming around shooting Varanasi. So I used to do that. So I started taking on more of those projects. Whenever she'd sort of pick up the phone and say, Shalini, there's this book, are you interested? So I would do the photography, and if she offered it to me, do the design as well. And then she calls me up one day and says, there's an excellent project and you really should take it on. You have to document the World Heritage Site monuments. So the World Heritage Site monuments means the Taj Mahal, the Fatehpur Sikri, like the UNESCO assigned World Heritage Site monuments. And most of them are, they have very, very restricted, you can't go everywhere. Yeah. So it's there, you see it from outside, everything is barricaded. You don't, because most of them are very precious and they're in that list. So, of course, I took it on and I started, as and when a book would come out, I would sort of run off and go and do it. So this picture on the left, we are actually on top of the Taj Mahal, on the chhat of Taj Mahal. And while I'm smiling here, I have terrible vertigo. So I'm actually dying there trying to take that picture. This one in the middle is Hampi. Don't ask me why I'm shooting the bum of that sadhu, but that's the only photograph I could find. And that is Krishna again. We were doing it all together. And here, I think the there are hardly steps. I don't know how these people in the, olden times climbed up and down. So I guess he's sort of helping me from not falling over or something. But this is again another key turning point in my life, which I'll come to you, Dee. My parents got very
This
project, and they came with me on one of the shoots. I want to point out on this picture.
Also your mom's very much into history, no? So
my mom was a history teacher, and this picture that I found of her just standing and smiling, is it's very telling of what influenced me so much. So if I go and ask her and say, "What are you smiling at?" and she would say things like, "Can you imagine? It's through this door that Akbar had passed one day." Can you imagine those walls? They were all filled with tapestries and lanterns, and it was just bustling with life. And I remember I would stand there with her, and I would literally get goosebumps because she would just relate the whole thing. One is that she would sort of talk about what the incident was, when was it built. So this particular house, incidentally, was the one where Jahangir was born, and it has been locked out from public air because it had been squatted. And the picture here is of my mother scaling this wall, getting up on a ladder. I didn't know she was going to do that, because she was physically not a very healthy person. But there was no stopping her. So she scaled this wall, which must be what? I mean, a modern day 3-story wall, which she scaled using a ladder and some broken steps. This one is the three of us on top of the Panch Mahal, which they do not allow anybody to go into. But like I said, every door was open for us. We could climb on top of the Qutub Minar. We were allowed to walk down corridors where only the Begums and the Nawabs the emperors had gone down. And it was just fantastic. And these two pictures again of my father scaling walls, and he's 80 now, he's over 80 now, and he's still scaling walls with me. Whenever I go on a assignment or something, I tell my dad, "Do you want to come?" And it's very rarely that he says no. But what I'd like to say here, Dee, is that it's during these trips that this little thing started growing in my mind of just moving on. I just had enough of doing World Bank and ILO and UNICEF and not green but blue. I want this, kid's face to look sadder. It was somewhere my soul was sort of, feeling very sapped out.
so creative.
So anyway, and we would go on these.
Essentially, there is a bit of a sort of change of direction happening in your life at the moment when you're doing all this travel, right?
I would say, yeah, this definitely the seeds are being planted.
Yeah,
definitely. So these are some of the key turning points.
Oh, this is your K-pop moment.
This is K-pop moment. So guess why Dee is calling it the K-pop moment? So we were in Sanchi shooting the Sanchi monument for one book. And there was this group of Koreans who had come. And one of them, I don't know if he's in this photograph, he sort of, wandered across to us and said, "So what are you doing?" So we said, "Oh, we are taking pictures for a guidebook." He says, "Oh, guidebook? You even want to make a guidebook? You're such a lazy lot. I mean, I've never seen a more lazy country full of lazy people." He just went on and on in his broken language, I mean, look at the kind of heritage you have. Look at the wealth you have. And what do you have? Not even a single fridge magnet. There's not even a souvenir shop outside. And the two of us literally stood there looking very guilty, heads hung low. And but we had nothing to tell him, really. We just had to keep quiet and deal with it. So that was there. That was, I think, it was like sort of like a thorn inside me, like itching all the while. The next was this beautiful pillar that you see. Moments before this or moments after this, these bunch of guys came in their bikes and, in their flashy t-shirts and all, and they were talking in Kannada or I don't know which language, and they started sort of banging on things and, climbing over things. And thankfully, this was all prior to the selfie time. But whatever, it didn't stop them from doing the most unsavory things. And then I realized that I can't just keep standing here. I read about these things. I was doing the book, so I read about these pillars. These are musical pillars. If the wind passes through them, you can actually hear a tune. So I went up to them and in my Hindi, I started explaining to them that, if you keep touching it, it's over 500 years old. If you keep banging on it, then it'll go. And I believe you guys are from around here. They said, yeah, we are right here. We are from Vijayanagara town only and all of that. So I gave them a whole story. I told them about the significance of it and how it is their treasure and they should sort of take care of it. And the effect was amazing. I mean, instead of turning back and saying, mind your own business, they were then, telling others that, hey, you know what this is what it is, and this is what we should be doing about it. So there was this second thing that started growing, that if one could inform people through stories, make it interesting, then maybe people would, learn to start taking care of what was theirs. The third picture, of course, everywhere we went, there would be these backpackers, there would be these fancy Gucci bag people, mostly people from abroad, standing at the ticket counter and saying, where's your gift shop? Do you have a souvenir shop? Is there even a fridge magnet? And there was nothing. The pride of place was this Taj Mahal that, you see here. So one fine day, actually, the one fine day happened after a trip abroad and we did several museum rounds. And I realized that we were exiting through all the gift shops. And I was like, Krishna, what are we doing? So I said, 50,000 bucks, 6 months. That's it. Let me invest it. If it works, then I do it. If it doesn't, I'll quietly put my tail between my legs and come back and join you again. There began my Frogmag journey. This is what I started with. I was being very bold. I took this image, which is on the left. You will have to search a bit to see which detail I've taken. So I said, Taj Mahal sells, fine. I'll give you Taj Mahal. But let's give you Taj Mahal where you actually have to start seeking out the detail. You'll have to start looking at why this monument is the most beautiful monument, and not because of some, tourist guide story about it being the monument of love. There's way more to it. And made this set of 4 fridge magnets. Made sure that there was a story with the product, a little bit about the monument, and a little story. I had decided everything that goes has to go with a story. Went to Humayun's tomb. From a single detail, moved on to various details from a monument and made a small set of 6 magnets. Went out into my, my collection of bazaar and travel photographs and made what we call
You were doing this for an event, right, Shalini?
No. I was doing it thinking that, there were these exhibitions that are held. So there are these Dastakar exhibitions and all that I used to go for, and I used to like the products that were being done. There were a lot of people who were entrepreneurs, who were starting out, who were breaking away from, conventional jobs and trying out new things. And a friend of mine used to have a stall there. So I went and I requested her. I said, I have these 3 things. I have a little basket. I even have a logo and a company name, a brand name. Will you put it in your stall? And she said yes. She was very, very sweet. And she put it in our stall. The exhibition goes on for 10 days. Obviously, I sold out. But because I didn't have too many. We were already, we were in the print business. We were from new media. We had moved into making brochures and collaterals and everything for these NGOs. So we had connections with the printers. We had a pretty long-standing relationship with them. So when I actually went and approached them and said that I want to do it, they were willing to do that R&D for me, because it took a while to develop these. The magnets sort of move like that. So you can't have a bookmark that clips like that unless you try it a couple of times. So I had like a small quantity of it. The whole idea was to just test it out. So it wasn't a large run or anything. And I put it there. What So what sold out probably didn't take care of my expenses, but what I got in the bargain was that I started getting contacts. And one such contact was of the GM, the general manager of the Handloom and Handicrafts Export Corporation, HAGC. None of us would have probably heard about them, but trust me, all the museum shops in our country, cottage industries, museum shops, all of them are run by that handloom export and whatever HAGC. So anyway, I went there and I met the GM, very, very dynamic man. So he said, listen, there is a museum shop which has just been built. The Commonwealth Games had just gotten over and there was this fancy shop which had been built. And there are two people who are, they are they are the head of the committee. We have a committee. I'm going to introduce you to them and you can go and meet them and see what they have to say. That was Malvika Singh and Mohini Menon. Malvika Singh has become like a really big part of my life now. I remember we went in for this meeting, Krishna and I, and there were these two ladies sitting and very warm because, there's NID did this thing to a lot of people. There were a lot of people connected with the institute. They knew about the institute. They knew people there. So there was a certain comfort level that she was dealing with an NID graduate. But she is somebody who doesn't let you rest. Okay? So she looked at us and said, very nice. I like the magnets. Can you make jigsaw puzzles? And while I'm staring at her, Krishna next to me is going, yes. Says, can you make playing cards? Yes. Can you make mugs? Yes. Can you make t-shirts? I was like, oh Lord. But that's it. She pushed us and we started going beyond this thing and she started giving us actual orders. So what started happening was any exhibition that would happen in the museum, they would have a limited edition gift collection and we would be making it for them. So this was called the Epic Story and miniatures from all over the world which depicted the Ramayana were collected. There was an exhibition for over a few months and we did a small range of products for them. The fun of doing work with museums like the National Museum or most other museums is that you work with the most beautiful images. So what happens is that when you go and look at a miniature painting which is being sold at an exhibition or at Dastakar or whatever, you've already got that, you have an eye, you know what the best is. You've seen what British Museum or DNA consider worth keeping. So it trains you. You start sort of going and looking out for what is happening in the contemporary market also, and you learn to scan. Anyway, long story short, so a lot of, when it's a government thing, what happens is that when they're gifting it to people, they will come to the museum shop, collect things, and then gift it to, say, the President of India or to some guest who's coming from abroad. So as luck would have it, a set of our things went to the President's house. And these doors opened for us.
That's the Rashtrapati Bhavan.
That's the Rashtrapati Bhavan. And till now, my tour ended with this gate. I mean, that's what it is like. I mean, if you're not invited there, or if you do not have a special pass, or you are a part of the guided tour, you cannot go beyond this. This is where security, this is as far as...
Padma Shri, or if you didn't have Padma Shri.
Yeah. Padma Shri. You're going to go walk through those gates one day. So, anyway, we were called and we were told, we need help with this. That was the shop. This was the shop. And these were the souvenirs. And we were told, we will take you around. You should see the building for yourself and see what can be made out of it. So we had to go through all kinds of permissions, equipment, battery, this, that, one. Pain it was. But when we finally walked in through those 5-level security into that building, the British were at their peak when this building was built, right? It was built for the Viceroy. So Lutyens was given, I think, all the funds that was needed and every craftsman in India to come up with the most fabulous building. Starting with the gate, as you can see, this wrought iron gate has a story of its own. We put it on scarves. we took the, the paintings which were on the ceilings of this state corridor, put it on a clock. I mean, we put it on various products, but that's how we sort of went about it. No more of the dome, no more of the forecourt. That's what had been sort of like done to death. Took floors, made stationery, fridge magnets, and that's the level of, inlay work, Pietra Dura that was there in that building. Took carpets. Apparently, there were jails in Agra during the British era. There were jails in Agra where carpets were woven, and they were some of the most exquisite carpets. Use those to make make other products. The products were doing well, so we were told, okay, you have to now start making gifts for our state guests. So we were told that there'll be a conference for the governors. So you have to make a set for the governors, a set for the wives. The viceroys are going to be meeting, so you have to make a set for the viceroys. Then it became like so-and-so state guest is coming, so you'll have to make something for them. So I don't have all the pictures of those here, but to give you an idea, we just took images from there and we created these collections. Depending on what the budget was, it would be either something like a huge wall clock or a small paperweight clock or just stationery. And then the president, whenever he started traveling, we started making things for the state guests there as well. While we were working on this, increasing our number of products and things, we were then told that, listen, the shop is looking quite ugly. We would really like it if you sort of relook at the shop. Now the problem with that shop was that there was too much security there. So even if people went in and they saw the stuff, they didn't even have the time to buy. Like 5 minutes and the guard would say, you have to leave now. So they gave us a porta cabin outside where people could at least spend a little more time. And it was literally a porta cabin which was 6 feet by 12 feet. And within those constraints, we built a souvenir shop for the Rashtrapati Bhavan. What happened as a result is that a lot more people got to know about how rich the building was. A lot more people got to know about the work that this particular regime was doing on the building and, restoring things. All the files had been removed from those floors, the inlay floors. The walls had been cleaned up and the building was really looking like a state building. It's like the dome over India. That's what it's called. And it was looking like the dome over India. And finally, they had a shop which was, it sort of kind of represented that dome over India. So actually word was spreading and people got to know about us. And the big challenge of making products for the Nehru Museum was thrown at us. So suddenly from a building which is offering itself with all its grandeur, we had to take a very charismatic character, but a very controversial character also, and make products. It was a museum and a library, and the people who came there were actually people who were, they were researchers, they were studying about the Nehruvian era, and there were students. So there was this challenge of coming up with things that would excite children and the budget. And of course, it's just a person. We had to take a person and make things. So we tried to look at the lighter side of things, that we know that our first prime minister had an amazing sense of humor. We know that he was a highly intelligent man. We didn't know that he loved animals and he liked to play with tiger cubs and, red pandas. So we made little fridge magnets, and strangely enough, these were very popular because we were getting an insight into the man's life. What we also did was we made him into a pop icon. I don't know the museum didn't have a problem with it, so I guess others won't. And I believe everything went through the family. They had to sort of agree that it was okay. So, we sort of did this Warholist kind of treatment. We took his quotes, we put it on coasters. We couldn't put his face on the coasters, but his quotes are amazing and inspiring. We took his speech, Tryst with Destiny, and put it on stationery. And they were all reasonably priced. They were targeted for students and the more serious researcher kind of people. So from the, from a building, we moved to a person. The next thing that we were sort of thrown into was the Rajasthan state government. Vasundhara Raje had just come back into power, and she was looking at presenting um, Rajasthan to the world as a source of income, as a main source of income. You know, she knew that tourism was really one of the main sources of income in Rajasthan. But she wanted to give it a more holistic approach. So what she did was she got museologists, she got restoration architects, and she got us. So there was a museologist lecturing on the museums. There were restoration artists. There were two of them who were actually running around the whole of Eastern Rajasthan, looking at buildings, seeing what could be done. And there was us. We were scouting around, one for all these beautiful images which would be made into products, and for places where shops could be placed. We kept, making these presentations, new products, more experiments. Our range started growing, and while our range was growing, we would just sort of transfer it on to the clients' products. What one realized when one was running around and looking for all these, oh God, D, I started saying,
Bad
anyway. So when we were running around and scouting for shop spaces, I realized that when you're working with old monuments, one critical thing is that the monument should not be touched. The very little. I mean, you should not be going and laying floors or putting glass doors and all, which a lot of people end up doing, and thus ruining a lot of what is there. So we came up with this concept of a souvenir cart. And it was based on the concept of the kawad. So the kawad is that storytelling box, right? Where, as you keep opening the door, the story emerges. So what we did was we took a box.
So the brief was something that, in these locations, obviously had to be standalone because, that was the initial brief, right?
No, so the brief was that you have to go scouting for good locations for shops. And every location that I chose, which I felt that people would visit, would be a place where they would say, no, you can't put up any shelves here. Okay, so the only place that they were giving us were outside or next to the loo, or, in some place where the sun would be so strong, nobody would want to go there. Yeah. So the challenge was that you did not get the right location if you wanted a room or a shop. So that's when the whole idea of coming up with a cart came up, that, have something which is mobile, move it around, make it completely self-sustained. So this box that we have, the top is where the display is, the bottom is where the storage is. It being Rajasthan, we decided to put solar panels and all, which ultimately we didn't. All we needed was a plug point. We had LED lights, the works. All we needed was a plug point. And we tried it out in Hawa Mahal. So what happens is that when that box opens up, we also tell a story. We tell a story through our products. So that is what, the whole concept of this gift cart was. And as you can see, it's lit up at night, and it's literally this one wire which is going. That is the only connection it has with the monument. So the monument would have its own lighting system, its own whatever power supply and all. So it became like this was like where we prototyped, and it was decided that we are going to just go on with this cart in every.
You roll it out as a system with a whole number of locations, basically.
Yeah. And the good thing about working with us was that not only were we giving the solution of where to sell from, we were also giving the solution of what to sell. And we were giving very, very monument-specific stuff. We were giving monument-specific stuff. We were giving stuff that was also telling a story about the monument, which is beyond what is the typical story. So here is a bowl using a dome in Hawa Mahal, which people don't know about. Because what people do is they stand outside, they take a photograph, and they move on to Amer or they move on to City Palace. They don't realize what a rich monument Hawa Mahal is in itself. And Hawa Mahal, incidentally, was the most photographed monument from outside. So we said, okay, we need to get these products to pull people in. So, we went to every corner, looked for details, put it on products which were selling in the shop. If anybody came and asked me, where is this from? I just point at the door, which was like 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, you could actually point out and say that door in that corner. And immediately there was excitement, there was sales, and the whole thing sort of changes. And when you're not there, your book itself is sort of telling you the story, because you have the whole story written along with the product. We decided to look at angles which were otherwise not being looked at and put them into products which were never thought of, So put a scarf on with the Hawa Mahal on it. And what started happening was that we started putting these also in other shops. So then there was an interest, not just of tourists, but also people in Jaipur. Like I have friends who are in Jaipur who would say, oh, I didn't even know this existed. So there was this whole idea, what we were pushing was that, you can make a museum or a monument a central place of interest for a small town or a city by having activity around it. So if it becomes your gift shop, like your go-to gift shop, then there will be people coming in, and they will be, in some cases, it's like a direct source of income for the museum or the monument. In some cases, it is through tickets. Whatever it is, it draws traffic. It literally supplements income. We took, again, this is what everybody sees, and we made them into these little tea light lamps. So the next cart that we were, these are stained glasses that we turned into earrings. So it also excited people that it was just not a fridge magnet, but something which could be worn, something that could be used. It could be a part of your home. And that was also working very well with our product range. We made a similar cart, slightly changed according to the requirement in Bikaner House. In Bikaner House, what was needed was that the cart had to be in or out. So what the Rajasthan government did was, Bikaner House was being used as an accounts department or something. So they completely cleared it out. They restored it to its original glory and made it into a space for events. It's literally a go-to place in Delhi now. So there's a cafe, there's a beautiful shop called Beautiful Shop, and by Vivek Sahani. And there was this Bikaner House where there were these exhibitions. You could hold exhibitions, you could have your events, beautiful space. So Bikaner House said, why not monetize on that? Why don't you give us all those things which are there? So our products were also promoting the state, right? So they said, let them be here. And also Bikaner House is where the buses leave from. So they said, let's have those products in the Bikaner House as well. Make us a little cart like you've done for the other monuments. So we've customized it with the Bikaner House logo and put it in the Bikaner House. As the events and activities around that, that event space increased, they said, hey, we want a range which is specific to Bikaner House. So we developed our first range of products using a logo. We just took the logo and spread it across the products that we were already making. Then onwards, it's pretty much been like, one museum after the other. These are from the, the Baudaji.
I'm going to pause you here. I think what is quite important, Shalini, that you mentioned that a lot of the products are actually used to kind of, it's like a marketing tool for the, for the museum as well. So it's yes. How do you say, instead of just having a brochure about something, which someone might throw away, it is something that you kind of purchase. And so you own, you kind of buy into the museum or the idea of what, So I think that's quite an important thing that, as a strategy was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, what happens is when you're given a freebie, when you're given a brochure or a whatever, you haven't paid for it, right? So unless it's extremely pretty or very informative, you will throw it. But if you paid for it, even if it's just 100 rupee or a 200 rupee magnet or a keychain or whatever it may be, if you paid for it, then you will keep it, you will protect it. And also what was happening was that people were buying things and they were gifting it to people. One of our biggest clients were people who were traveling abroad. These were light things. They were not heavy, right? They were easy to, I mean, as times changed, our bags became smaller, our baggage allowances became smaller. So we started, our products were very suitable for such ventures. And what would also happen is that all these institutions, since they were kind of interlinked, is that they were monetizing on them by actually selling them to other organizations. Say, for instance, if Rajasthan, state government is hosting an event, then they would go to one of the monuments, the Amar, whatever, the Amar Mahal, no, what, Albert Hall Museum, and say that, hey, we want 50 of these or 100 of those or whatever it is. So there was a direct source of income also besides promotion for the museums, because that's 50 other people who are getting to know about your museum. So this is Bhavdaji Lal Museum, which used to be the VNA in Bombay. There was Tasneem Mehta. She is still heading this museum. A pleasure to work with. She was very open to our ideas. She trusted us with, whatever we were doing, and gave us good direction, allowed us to sort of, the Bhavdaji Lal Museum, people from Bombay would know it's literally like a jewel box. And they spent a lot of time and energy and money, of course, restoring it to its original glory. It's really a very, very pretty museum. So we made a whole range which sort of brought out the beauty of the building. And these earrings, for instance, are from the ceiling. There are these plaster plaques. These are lamps. These are the Minton tiles, the famous Minton tiles of Bombay. So all of that was sort of used and spread across. That's the building itself. Again, very pretty building. They also had an interesting collection of clay models, so which literally documents the very large number of people who lived in that Bombay area. There were so many communities that city had sort of attracted over the years. So they have these very, very interesting clay figures which are there, documenting how people would dress, how the men would be, how the women would be. And it's interesting to see how every community had a distinct identity. So we use those through products. They have some incredible textiles. Sorry?
The memory game where you mix and match.
The memory game, the mix and match. So the idea of, introducing these to children, the memory game, of course, adults can also play, is that they also realize that there's such a lot of diversity in the country. There's so much diversity. Thanks to Sajit and Suresh, we would all get dressed up on that one cultural day to look like where we came from. But it would have helped if we, knew that this is what our forefathers used to, this is how they used to dress up. But anyway, so this Lakshmi Vilas Palace is a private residence. It's literally a private residence with 2 living suites. Very, very like I should call her the queen that I was interacting with. She laughed and she said, "Do you know that the Buckingham Palace is smaller than our palace?"
Really?
Yes. And but we just have 2 bedroom suites. So the rest of it was just darbar halls and dance rooms and morning tea room, evening tea room. It's crazy, but it's beautiful. And here's a range of products. I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to sort of show you where it's come from, because you guys should visit it and see it. See, I've already started selling the monuments. Anyway, the other fantastic thing that the Gaikwads did was they actually sponsored or whatever, was the patron for Raja Ravi Verma. So the most famous paintings that we see all over the place are all in their collection. So we got to work with some incredible pictures of Raja Ravi Verma and made a whole range of products. These are all these are, every few months we change the collection, we look at new things. So
I think what is quite important is that these are not state-sponsored museums. So they are
the
you
private
know,
museum.
yeah.
Yes.
So this actually, in terms of, is an income generation sort of
Absolutely.
source
Absolutely.
for the monument, for its upkeep. Am I right?
Absolutely. You're like bang on. Yes. Like for them, this is a big, like besides tickets, and they have some, some places where they hold events. It's merchandise that helps them earn money. So, I mean, to maintain the museum, let's not say that they depend on this, but it definitely helps in the upkeep of the museum and the building. Next was, I'm moving away completely from that whole museum thing. There are several other small museums we've worked with, but it's more or less the same story. It's either state sponsored, or it's owned by the city, or it's a private museum or a trust. We were approached by WWF. Suddenly everything was changed. There was no nice image to work with. They just told us, okay, we want to work with the sea, and we want to work with the birds. Now you generate the artwork, you make us the products, we'll just give you the information. So that whole thing of generating artwork, like building things from the scratch, and again just putting it into our usual line of products, but very challenging, very interesting. So now we were able to take on clients who would come to us, say, we have nothing, we want you to develop a whole range.
I think I know that there was extensive work that you've been doing with the museums and all, but obviously you have your own range as well that you do, and I know that obviously with a lot of the products that you make are also informed very much by by motherhood, and how you've brought up, like Faye and Urvi obviously since childhood have had to go for all the trips and all your so tell us about the motherhood side of stuff, where I know that you've always really been very passionate about the whole input into heritage and culture coming in at a very early age. So tell us about that, Shalini.
Yeah. So this is also while my frog baby was growing, my little baby was also growing. Both our babies were growing. There she is. And the fun part of it was that all our holidays were also work. So work was holiday, holiday was work. And we would go for, these holidays, and I would get excited by, I have a feeling this picture was taken before, and I went back and then my product came out. But it was sort of going on side by side. Now, what also happened around this time, Dee, is that I realized that if I was looking for engaging toys, engaging games, interesting games, I was having to go into ELC. I mean, you remember we would go to that mall and we'd sort of look at ELC and look at, Melissa and Dong. There was nothing that was Indian, I mean, there's nothing wrong in good stuff coming from other country, but why not also have something which is specifically from the country? I mean, get them excited about what is around. Now, this is around the time when I remembered that I had worked with some tribal artists for a calendar for World Bank, and I got in touch with them again. And I said that, and we had sort of, over the years build a relationship. We would sort of talk once in a while. If they came for an exhibition, I'd go meet them. So I just said, come on, it's time we start collaborating. It's time we start working. And that's Chandrakali. She had got tired of doing World Bank stuff, and she said, I am tired of making clinics and education and computers. So I said, what do you want to draw then? She said, I want to draw Bagula. I'm like, what is a Bagula? So she says, a Bagula is a stalk. So from that one stalk, that I kept, came the idea of many, many more games. And we moved into puzzles, we moved into memory games, we moved into all kinds of, interactive, engaging products for kids and adults. The memory games are equally challenging for adults, so are some of the bigger puzzles. And like I said, over the years, our range just kept growing, and it grew because holiday and work was happening together. There have been several times, Dee, when we've done a holiday together, and I have run off somewhere while you are looking after the two kids because I'm either shooting windows in Goa or taking some mural in some
Yeah.
place.
I mean, not to forget the the London holiday where you went and squatted at the V&A for I don't know how many days.
Shut
So,
up!
yeah.
I was looking after your daughter, and I was making her culturally aware.
Yeah, right.
You were making big bucks.
No, so yeah, see, I think you've not really told us anything about Frogmag and why it's called Frogmag. So I don't know if you want to tell us a bit about why it's called
I will
Frog.
definitely go into that. But before that, I wanted to get into something that I'm sort of uh, all of us small businesses, all of us businesses dependent on tourism have been very, very badly hit. It's literally sort of taken the wind out of our sails. Like how? The thing is that when you're sort of pushed against adversity, you're also thinking. Your mind sort of starts getting out of the box, and a lot of conversations during lockdown, uh, the anxiety of friends overseas, the anxiety of clients, all of that start taking shape in new ideas. So what happened was that, as you can see, that all our products always come, like whatever the packaging is, whatever the thing is, we always come up with a story with the product, right? That's one of our key points. So what I started, maybe I should show the next slide first. So this is platform number 1 in Bombay, VT, and I had a range of products. One being the those clocks, those what are they called, pocket watches, and these wine glass charms. So a friend of mine who lives abroad, she said that I had no idea that these were from I thought they were pretty wine glass charms. I thought they were stained glass. I didn't really read them. And she's somebody who constantly buys things from me and she gives it to friends. And she said that, the moment I saw that, I was like, when I go back to Bombay, I have to go and visit VT. And that kind of started giving me this idea of why are we waiting for people to come to us? Why aren't we taking, things to people? And in the form of everyday use products. And I started talking to some of the smaller museums that we work with. We are already discussing things, so I will not be able to divulge too much. But the thing is that if you see an altar like that, an altar that pretty, or rather you see products which are like this, you see scarves, and then you read and see a photograph of an altar like that, and you realize that it is very doable. Then the next time you are, okay, this is a museum in Goa. The next time you are in Goa, you are going to say, I'm going to seek out this museum and go see what else they have to offer. So it's one thing to say that, hey, you know what, why don't you take your things and, we'll make beautiful products out of it. And then you can sell them and people will come because they like the product and they want to know about the museum or the monument. Another thing is to sort of say that, hey, Dee, are you there? Oh, God.
Diana slept off.
I have no idea. Am I rambling, Sajid?
Not yet, not yet. No, carry on, Shalini, don't worry.
Sorry.
Just ignore Diana.
Yeah.
It's badly brought up.
So to cut a long story short, what we are proposing to people is that we are going to give you a platform. There's going to be a portal. You can come to us. We are already working with most of them. We are already creating the merchandise for them. What we are also saying is that along with what we are doing, along with our own, our social media campaign, our brick and mortar shops, not that we have too many, we have shops in shops, and our website, we are going to provide you that platform. So you will also be able to sell your stuff during this period when you might not have the kind of footfall you're expecting to have. And a lot of people are buying into that concept. A lot of people are sort of looking at us as the not only the people who will provide them with the merchandise but also help them market the merchandise. So I just wanted to cut into this Dee, before I go into my story about why the frog and how the frog. The how the frog I've already told. The why the frog.
No,
So
because
that's
I do want to point out that we are reaching 90 minutes. Huh? So I want you to, I'm the class teacher, remember? I'm the class teacher saying, come on.
And I'm a good student. This is my last slide.
Good.
So, okay, why the name Frog Mag? Whereas I was really clear that it was Indian heritage and I wanted to sort of, showcase the best of my country and all of that. I didn't want it to be typecast as a ethnic brand. I didn't want it to be looked at as something which was craft. It was supporting craft, it was promoting craft, but it wasn't craft. I wanted that to be very clear. I wanted it to be a brand that people recognize because of the, it's a friendly frog. It's a frog which is flying, it's friendly. So everybody remembers it. If people have bought something, they don't know me, but they know the frog. And that works for me. The other thing was that we have started working with a lot of museums outside the country. And we didn't want it to be something which was sort of restrictive in terms of the name and the identity. So, a frog is so generic. And then if people ask me why frog, one of the things that had come to my mind when I was starting out on this thing was that the Indian souvenir market was dying or was dead. And if the frog stops breathing, the world stops breathing. And it was time that a frog came in and started breathing into this whole souvenir,
Perfect.
gamut. So that, and what more, yeah, this frog can swim, the frog can hop on land. When it flies from one tree to another, it looks like a flying frog.
Totally takes a leap.
Totally takes a leap. With
Fantastic.
that, I end. This last screen has some pictures of, some of the shops where we were selling in terms of brick and mortar, and our website, which has now kept us afloat. I'm so glad we have the online option. And this is also where we are hoping to add our partners into.
Perfect. Sounds great. Moz, I know that we've overshot time, but
Don't worry, I won't scold you.
She's been very naughty. She's not listening. Yeah.
That's amazing. 1 second, I'm going to now put somebody else on screen. And
you can exit the thing, no, Shalini?
Can I stop this, please? Yes.
Okay. So we're going to have Kavita and she's going to give us the vote of thanks today.
Thank you, Sajid. Shalini, how absolutely stunning was it to see how beautifully you've captured narratives of culture, narratives of heritage and history, and woven them into little things that one can actually hold on to. And I wanted to point out to those who came a little late that both Yankee and I are wearing these absolutely precious earrings that are made by Frog Mag. It was lovely to see how, right from the early influence of your granddads and great-granddad, and your mother and her beautiful narrations of events from history, to sort of see how that narrative arc took you all the way through film and video, and it took you right back, where I think you're still doing the same thing. It's still, I think Ekta mentioned it in the chats, you're still connecting dots through narrative, and you're doing it in such beautiful ways. I also love the way that, Shalini, you've been rebellious in your own way, though you've held on to your cultural identity, and you've always questioned status quo, and you've pushed boundaries. You've always looked for answers deep within, and that's really been sort of the creative arc of your work. Thank you so much, Shalini. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you, Dee. You're quite the expert host now.
By now, I've stopped saying,
Thank you so much.
I
Yeah.
did also.
Shalini, you did very well, huh? I have to say.
Shalini, that is fantastic. And Diana, as usual, your hosting is getting like Barkadatta level.
Yeah, man.
Fantastic. And Shalini, thank you so much for making us proud of picking up souvenirs from India. Otherwise, it's always what do you pick up? So it just feels amazing. So thank you so much for inspiring us and Diana for bringing it out.
No, I think Shalini, of course the work, but she's very resilient with, dealing with a lot of these government organizations, which can be like, you don't have that level of patience and immunity to tackle that it's a mammoth of a task. And I think, of course, there's design and the product side of it, but just managing a client like that is, it's hard work. I know.
Damn cool.
And
I'm
all
going
the
to
mourning and
spotlight a few
cribbing.
people for you, Shalini.
Yeah, the Zen doing a bit.
He will keep
Spider-Man.
performing this.
No, that's great. I mean, if there's any Yankee, tera earring dikha de.
Big.
Oh my God.
Pretty. Every time I wear this, people are like, where is it from?
And you said, no, I'm pretty. I'm prettier.
No. I don't say Sandy.
Hi, Rachna.
Thank you so much. It
That
is
night, so wakes up. Oh my God, my aunt. That is my aunt, my mother's sister.
Oh, sweet.
Looks exactly like my mother and my grandmother now. How lovely.
Auntie proud.
That's
Hi.
Hemant. That's not your aunt.
Really great.
You had come to our little shop in Baro, remember, Hemant?
Yeah. Karthik, my friend, was also there.
Yes. Viraj, you didn't rag, yeah?
Yeah, Shalini, no, I've stopped ragging. I'm trying to be a good boy now.
Lying being the keyword.
I think you should contact Didi and do something for Bishwa Bangla. Absolutely. I think there's a huge opportunity there.
My head will also go.
No, you handle so many governments, man. Didi is nothing. You'll be able to handle her as
Guys
well.
are still live. Don't talk about Didi too much.
Hi.
Thank you, Shalini. That was very inspiring. Thank you, Diana.
Most welcome. We had lots of fun. Thank you.
Oh. Olaf and Sharbari, my childhood friend. Another of their ex.
Thank you, and thanks to Krishna as well. Huh?
Yeah, we always forget, no? Our
The hardworking guy in the
the
background.
hardworking guy is always poor guy left out. Yeah. Krishna is actually
He's also there. The spotlight should go to him also.
Hi, yeah, Krishna.
Huh? He was live.
In the name of
Shalini, awesome stuff. I'm so glad to hear stories that I didn't know of, though.
really? But the video stories, I tell you, Moogie.
Combs.
We couldn't hear you, Moogie.
That's better without sound. And Bugda's actions were nice.
No complaint.
You can be done, should have with us.
Hi, Amit.
Great stuff.
My go-to person. Anything happens, Amit, I need a fabricator. Amit, I need a carpenter. Rupam!
Oh God, look who's here.
All these
I came too
fancy
late.
airport people can't be heard.
Can you hear me, Shalu Ghosh?
Yes.
I came in too late. I missed like 90% of the whole thing because I thought it was yesterday. Oh, God. Stupid of me. Anyway, how are you?
What nice accent, man.
Hello?
You have, Rupam.
What?
What a
We're all
fancy have. He can't hear me.
Yeah, sure.
Hello.
Hello.
Bidrohi Mamata, esecho.
Typing in Bengali and all that. Tell you, you never stopped wanting to be a bong, did you now?
Bong, what's wrong with you?
Oh, God,
Hello, Charlie Ghosh. She literally bullied me into coming on. Like, get on it now. I'm like, yeah, coming. I got lost in the
COVID
my new
bazaar,
house.
she's ordered. In COVID market, she has reordered.
Yeah,
Hi.
doing well.
Hey Shalini, so inspiring, particularly how you wove parenting into the whole story. You know, how lucky is your daughter to be visiting all these wonderful places.
And my daughter. She
And
parents.
your daughter Dee.
Yeah, Dee has quickly.
It's just so inspiring, amazing. Thanks.
Tell Anupama that she's.
Hey, Shalini, reporting from base station. Me and Shalini have offices right next to each other, so I'm right here.
Oh, Alpana, hi.
Hey Shalini. I
Hi.
joined late, I forgot, and then I remembered. So thank
Alpana
you.
is
That
also
was amazing story. So good to know all of us.
Hey, hi. Amazing.
Hi.
Super amazing. Shalini, I have a small suggestion for you. Check with Rajasthan government for exquisite liqueurs and wines. They have amazing recipes with the palaces there. You can check with them.
I'll see if Mr. Gehlot agrees.
True.
Professor.
Mute.
Throughout like a seniority journey grow through along, and it was still very inspiring to see the entire story together. Been a part of it middle way.
Krishna, I know that you are smirking behind that beard. All the good things they're saying about your wife.
And nothing about the bitter half.
Yeah.